IQ, however, is a reasonable predictor of how you're going to do at school. Okay? People who have higher IQs tend to do better in school. But IQ isn't the best predictor of how you're going to do in the world. The thing that is a better predictor is your emotional intelligence, your EQ. IQ might get you a job, IQ might get you through the door. Whether you do well is down to your EQ. It's due to your ability to be flexible, it's due to your ability to understand yourself, it's due to your ability to being able to understand others. Your EQ is a better predictor of your overall performance than your IQ. But none of that matters if you're not healthy. Now, in the past, there have been various definitions of mental health, and I just want to make sure that I'm clear that mental health and mental illness aren't the same. So mental health is actually a positive term. It's about being able to cope with the stresses of life, work productively, able to make a contribution to your community. How many people here have got mental health? It's great being an optimistic crowd. Do you know, actually, I was in my work crowd recently and asked the same question, and we got about 15% of people at CAMH at that time. I think it was the end of a very difficult day. But it's good to be with an optimistic crowd of people who've got mental health, because a lot of people don't have mental health. A lot of people are under stress and are buckling under the stress. A lot of people feel that they can't actually help and contribute to society. A lot of people feel like they are not engaged in society, and so mental health is something they need to think about. And mental health and mental illness are different. Mental illness are diagnosable patterns of disease that stop you being able to do the basic functions of your life. That's what mental illness is. So mental illness is really sort of quite a negative thing. It's looking at the things that you can't do, and mental health is all about the things, it's much more aspirational. Mental illness is important because 4 out of 10 of disability claims are due to mental disorders. 3 out of 10 are due to mental disorders, but 4 out of 10 of the leading causes are. And though it's 30% of disability claims that are due to mental illness, 70% of the actual cost of disability in Canada is due to mental illness. Some people have tried to cost mental illness, and the people who've tried to cost mental illness have come up with a figure of 51 billion a year. Now, that's not the cost with regards to just services. That's due to loss of productivity, people having to take time off to look after people with mental health problems, and people with mental health problems not being able to work. 51 billion. People are doing a recosting because people say that's a bit high. But even when you pare it down and down and down, you get to maybe about 40 billion. But it's a lot of money. So if you think about it, when you're just thinking about this, IQ, EQ, mental health, and mental illness, because poor mental health increases your chance of having a mental illness. This is expensive stuff. So it's not just the loss of productivity and loss of potential, it's the cost of not investing in it. Yeah, IQ, Canada does quite well. Canadian schools and Canadian universities like this are good. We're very good at doing IQ. Very good at getting people taught. High levels of people getting degrees. EQ, not so good. I was speaking to my wife earlier and she said, schools do EQ. Being at school, helps you develop. It's better than homeschool because you're developing. Then I said, well, if schools do EQ, how come I see so many people who've been bullied? How come I see so many people who've been at school and who've been suffering from depression and not being able to get any help? How come when you look in schools, you regularly, at the age of 14 or 15, get 50% of girls with depressive symptoms. If schools were good at EQ, that would be lower. With regards to mental health promotion, it's clear what we should be doing. We should be building healthier communities. We should be developing supportive environments for us to move on to the next level. We should be increasing community efficacy. There are actually a whole bunch of evidence-based, cost-effective strategies documented to prevent mental illness as well. This is just a WHO publication called Closing the Gap in a Generation. That, linked to all of the websites behind you, give you a huge array worldwide of evidence-based interventions for mental illness prevention. It's all there. In fact, one of the legislative committees in Ontario came to the conclusion that for every $1 you spend on mental health promotion or mental illness prevention, you get $7 in return. So all of you who are looking at your savings disappearing under the credit crunch, all of you who have got a bit of money and you want to put it in BMO or CIBC and they're going to give you 1% back, this is a 700% return. This is a good investment. We don't do it.